let's talk about cloud providers. As a product engineer, as a product manager for cloud products, and as a end user, as a product manager, I get more requests for multi-cloud. But what are the benefits of choosing one cloud provider to start? Let's start with, and if you look, I know none of you, neither of you work for any of the cloud providers, but I do personally feel that there are some cloud providers that are a little bit more broadcast forward, let's call it. But what are the benefits of choosing one cloud provider to start, Chris?
So we're big multi-cloud proponents at Cerberus Tech, but I completely echo what you're saying. You need to start somewhere. There's no point in coming out all guns blazing and just go, we're going to go multi-cloud from the beginning. That you should choose one. And I think every single one of us started off on the same cloud, right? It was the one that offered free credits, free tiers. Let's get started. Let's start building some workflows in there. And just trying to see what sticks. And that same cloud provider has then gone on to deploy a very specific set of media related products that don't exist in any other cloud platform, right? And they're easy things for you to go and have a look at. But they are, like, I've had this conversation with that cloud. And they have said to me that one of their biggest issues is people thinking that they are a managed service provider. They're not. They're a toolkit provider. They are your, for the US guys, they're the Home Depot. You can go in there and you can choose whatever you want off the shelf, but how you stitch it all together, that's on you. Or that's on a third-party systems integrator or someone who's going to build a dashboard for you. They provide all of the bits and they work very well. They're very dependable. They do exactly what they say that they're going to do, but they're not a system. They're not an end-to-end system. So you've got to really think about how you're going to stitch it together, because the way that you'll stitch it together is different to the person who came before you is going to stitch it together. But there are easy ways of seeing whether your workflows will work in one cloud over another, just to get started. But I think if you're really serious about it, you should be thinking about how you want to do that outside of any one cloud provider's offerings, so that in the event that you need to, you can deploy it into another.
I would argue that AWS definitely has done a lot of work in trying to make that work, both by acquiring Elemental, for instance, for some of that, but also they seem to be continuously focusing on that as one of their areas that they sort of see a lot of attention. Again, this could just be me being biased because that's what we use, but that's definitely my view of it. Microsoft did used to be better there, but have sort of let it fizzle out a little bit. I think for most people, you don't need to be multi-cloud in the way that some people use that term. I think there's two ways of viewing multi-cloud, right? One is that we run the exact same workload on multiple cloud vendors' platforms. Like we have this exact same software running in the exact same way across multiple cloud providers. Doing that means that you're not really getting the benefit of the cloud providers truly, because you have to be so generic that it can run on not necessarily cloud providers, but on-premise or on another service provider that's not a traditional cloud provider. What you want to do is adapt to each cloud provider's strengths more than anything. I think what a lot of people end up doing is they use maybe this service from Microsoft, this service from Azure, this service from Google, this service from AWS, and then they use them like across their solution. And of course, you got to be careful about not creating a lot of dependencies doing that. But like, sure, if Microsoft has a better service for transcription of video, then use that service there. And it doesn't mean you have to run your live channel in that same cloud. You can just use that component. That part of multi-cloud, I think, is what a lot of people end up doing very quickly. But the whole let's run the exact same workload with the exact same machines in the exact same cluster across multiple cloud providers. First of all, I don't think there really is a benefit, because you're not going to get a lot more resilience in than if you use a single cloud provider and use multiple regions, and that's a hell of a lot easier to engineer. And also, unless you're trying to do it as a way to like hedge bets against one of them, like suddenly squeezing you for more money, that doesn't seem to be something that's happening, and it doesn't seem to be something that's close to happening either way. And everybody knows it's going to be double every single operational issue you will have twice. Need to have basically double the operation staff. It's not worth it. Basically, don't do it unless there's a very clear reason, or unless you're, of course, a vendor that needs to operate stuff depending on which customer cloud preference they are. That's a different scenario. But for for most people who are not selling this to others and just running for themselves, stick to one cloud and use mix and match services from either one, depending on what you need, basically.
Well, and you brought up the multi-region. There's something I was always tell my customers is that it's very rare for a cloud provider to go down as an entire service, the major ones, right? It's typically it's a regional downtime that occurs, and so a lot of our approach with encoding live events or really important events will be to go to multi-region, right? I stream to Virginia and Oregon, or California and London. And so I do find that approach is definitely beneficial. And when you were talking about using a service and then using another service, in my mind, just because I can't help myself, in my mind was egress costs, egress costs, egress costs. It's like, oh, great, use the transcript. Microsoft Azure would love nothing more than use transcription and then send it out, going into another cloud provider, then sending it out. It's like the egress slope just goes huge, ingress and egress.